pushing that down.
Get out. Not dead yet.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 9th regular meeting of the Rockville Center Board of Education. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Emergency evacuation exits are on either side in the back. Any correspondence that can be posted has been posted. Opportunity for students this evening. Are there any students here that would like to address the board at this time? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Gavin, we have an acceptance of a gift this evening.
We do, Madam President. We'd like to thank the Rockville Center Education Foundation for their support. They have donated $6,900 and some odd dollars to our school district for a variety of projects as part of their fall grant cycle. We will have another grant cycle again at the end of the year. And again, they've just been so supportive with our new initiatives and all the things that we've been able to put into to the classrooms and support. So we really appreciate that.
Agreed. We always are very appreciative of the partnership with the Ed Foundation. So thank you very much for this. May I have a motion to accept the gift?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Ed Foundation. Over the course of the last several meetings, we have had some questions raised, and we want to assure you that all of you have been heard by the board. In response to this, the board has asked council to be here to review the legal obligations that the board must uphold and the potential consequences if we deviate from New York State law. On that note, I would like to introduce Mr. Howard Miller, who is here from Bond, Schoenig, and King, to walk us through and review some of that material with us this evening. Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So, as we all know, sometimes society's most controversial and divisive issues play out right in the hallways of our public schools. And certainly issues involving transgender students are on our national consciousness. They've been part of our political campaigns, and cases have been making their way through the court systems, We have also seen legislative initiatives to address the topic. So what I'd like to go over very briefly with all of you this evening is what exactly is the law in New York State on this issue? And what are the obligations of public schools regarding transgender students? I'm not going to focus on federal law, but I'm going to touch on it briefly before we start. Federal law, if any of you have done some Google searches on Title IX, you might see the law is very confusing. That's in part because there are conflicting decisions about whether Title IX even applies to transgender students. So you have a federal appeals court case in Florida that says that under Title IX, school districts are not required to give access to bathrooms and locker rooms based on gender identity. But you have a federal appeals court decision in Virginia that say you are. And then on top of that, you have the two federal court decisions coming out of the Seventh Circuit that sits in Illinois that sides with the Fourth Circuit that says school districts are required to grant bathroom and locker room access based on a child's gender identity, not their biology, but what they identify with. Making things even more complicated, some of you may have seen a headline today that there was a court decision in Kentucky, a lower court federal decision, that struck down and invalidated the Biden administration's regulations under Title IX. That they issued on a national level. That is striking down your regulations that we all believe were going to be repealed anyway when the Trump administration takes over. That does not affect what the actual law is under Title IX. It's just the regulations that implement the law. We don't know how our federal appeals court here in New York will rule on the topic. And for the purposes of our discussion, it doesn't really matter what they would do because state law is more broad in any event, and we are bound to follow state law. So what actually is state law? So I'm going to tell you what the law is. I'm going to tell you where a case would actually be brought and how that body would actually interpret state law. And then I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent to tell you what's really happening, practically speaking, in the schools themselves. So we're going to go outside of what's legal and theoretical to what is actually going on in the schools. So we have the state human rights law. It was amended in 2019. It makes gender identity a protected characteristic. What this means, typically we see the human rights law in the employment setting. So we know you can't fire somebody because of their race, their religion, their sexual orientation. Now, gender identity is equal to those protected characteristics. It is the same. It has the same protections. That also now applies to students. Every legal entity in New York is required to comply with this law. My law firm, all of the places where you work are required to comply with this law. So many years ago, there was a case that where a student brought a claim of discrimination in the State Division of Human Rights, which is a very friendly environment for someone bringing a discrimination claim. The Human Rights Division awarded tremendous damages to that student. Two of my colleagues in our Syracuse office brought an appeal up to the State Court of Appeals, which is our highest court, and that court held that the State Division does not have jurisdiction over student claims. So the legislature, after getting wind of that decision, decided to fix the matter themselves and now made it so claims brought by students are heard in the State Division of Human Rights. So that is, again, a very favorable forum for a student to bring a claim. When a case like this is heard, it is heard by an administrative law judge. So we're not in a court. We're in a hearing before an agency that is charged with enforcing the law. And they will enforce the law according to how that agency interprets the law. And that is the rub that we're going to get to. So what are the remedies here? Student can be awarded emotional distress damages for being discriminated against. The administrative law judge also has the authority to issue an amount of damages that they believe to be so high that it will create a deterrent effect, so to prevent any future violations of the law. Powerful weapon to be able to be used. So again, if a claim was brought against the school district, in that forum, the award of damages would have to be funded by all of you, by the taxpayers. So that's why it's a risky proposition to litigate in that forum. Going back to the case I mentioned earlier that held there was no jurisdiction, in that case, the damages award by the State Division were $1 million. And that was for some minor acts of harassment, nothing severe like you would read about in the newspapers. So that's the concern we would have in litigating in that forum, is the amount of damages could simply be staggering. So what does the State Division have to say about bathrooms and locker rooms? They've made very clear in their guidance materials that you can find on the internet on their website that under the law, students can use bathroom and locker room facilities in accordance with their gender identity. So that is going to be what is enforced in a legal proceeding. And if any school district were to deny access to a child based on their gender identity, they will lose. And again, it doesn't matter philosophically that there's a disagreement with this, and it doesn't matter that the federal courts are split on this. That's where we're going to litigate this claim, and we would lose that claim. Further cementing rights for transgender individuals is our state constitution, which was recently amended. Presumably the legislature did this, so it would be very, very difficult for a change in the legislative makeup in terms of political party to go and repeal the human rights law. So even if they could pull that off, you would have to then do another proposition to then further amend the state constitution, which seems very unlikely. So this is the law that we're living with right now, and it appears to be for some time. Additional consequences for noncompliance. The New York State Education Department issued guidance on transgender students, and I understand a lot of people say, well, that's just guidance. It's not binding on anything. The problem is that it's binding if somebody files a complaint at the New York State Education Department. They will enforce their own guidance. So to the effect that, yes, it's not law in the sense that a court would not be required to follow it. It is law in the sense that we're not going to be litigating this in a court. And the remedies are extremely harsh if you violate the law. The Commissioner of Education can take away state aid to a school district that is in violation of law. And this is a very aggressive commissioner that we have these days. And I don't think would hesitate for a second to do that, and has threatened that in other circumstances. I was talking with the superintendent earlier, and we recall a time when there was controversies over state assessments. And a school district in Westchester decided that they were going to engage in civil disobedience and not give the state assessments. And the commissioner made very clear, if you go through on that threat, we're taking away all your state aid. And that was a wealthy school district, but still, if your aid is cut off and you want to keep your level of programs that you have right now, where's the money going to come from? It's going to come through an increase in your taxes. So again, I understand that there's differing philosophical views on this, but the reality is where we are now, we would be litigating in a forum that would rule against the school district. So with that, I will turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. As Mr. Miller noted, the board has also asked Mr. Gavin to address this in terms of our practices here in our schools. So Mr. Gavin, at this time, can you please do that for us?
Sure. First, I wanted to thank Howard Miller for walking us through the law. And I do want to share how that law translates to practice in our high school. First, there were concerns about bathroom safety. Parents should know that at the high school, there are adults stationed outside of all of the boys' and girls' bathrooms. Students sign into the bathroom, and there are cameras that record who goes in and out. Not cameras in the bathroom, but cameras that record who goes in and out. The main door to bathrooms that are open for student use is also propped open so that adults can hear what's going on in the bathroom. Finally, we also have our security guards sweep those bathrooms regularly, often every period. The likelihood that we could not respond to commotion in a bathroom within minutes is extremely small during the school day. Second, there were some questions and concerns about locker rooms or any activity where students may need to change to get ready. As we know, the high school and middle school are difficult times for students and can be awkward. Getting changed in front of others for anyone can be uncomfortable. We want to ensure that all of our students can feel comfortable preparing for before-school activities or after-school activities. We can explore establishing separate areas for students, any students that feel uncomfortable changing in front of other students. So everyone knows, we often have students that make that choice already. That students may decide, I'm going to get changed for basketball in the bathroom right now. We have inside of the bathrooms stalls already. In the locker rooms, we have stalls already where students oftentimes, if they felt uncomfortable as a 14 or a 15-year-old might, getting changed in front of somebody else, they can use those spaces right now. For our locker rooms, we can explore establishing a bigger space for private areas for any students to change. These privacy areas, once established in the locker rooms, can be used by any student for any reason, regardless of gender identity. And we can ensure that all of our students are aware of the options and can exercise them for any reason at any time. Third, I want to make it known that our job is to respond to the needs of our students, all of our students. Our climate survey results for the past 2 years tell us that our students feel comfortable sharing their concerns with trusted adults in our buildings. That is true in every building at every level in this district. Our students come to our teachers and faculty and staff to share their concerns. Our trans students are less than 1% of the entire overall student population. If a student is questioning their identity, they typically share that concern with a trusted adult who could do one of two things: address that concern with the student or bring in someone who may potentially have more training in that area. And then we work with the student to make sure that their parents are involved in the conversation and that we work with family members in a safe way. We also then go through the whole process of how do you want to be treated in terms of, do you want to use a separate bathroom? And we offer that and say, we do have single occupancy bathrooms for your use if you feel uncomfortable. We walk through all of these individual decisions as individuals with that student, with that family, because we value our parents as partners and we value our students as individuals. That same process applies not just to transgender students, but it also applies to any student that comes to us with a concern. That could be a concern like, I broke up with my girlfriend today and I'm feeling down about it. It could also be, my mom just told me that she has a significant illness and I'm really worried about it. It could be, I have a medical issue that I just found out about and I'm not sure what the best bathroom situation is for me. All of these things happen 1,000 times a day, every day in all of our schools. It's been our experience that trans students also choose to use the single occupancy bathroom in almost all instances because they are working through their own process at the time, and we are trying to support them in that. And we are trying to support their parents. But we also want to make sure that all of our students know that that single occupancy bathroom for any reason is available to all. And I've seen it exercised on a daily basis in our high school. Students will go to the bathroom of convenience. Finally, I just want to commend our students on the way they treat each other. I think that's really important to note is that our students care for each other and treat each other with respect. They are not perfect. They are developing small individuals, and some of them are very large here at the high school. But they do treat each other with respect and care, and they do treat each other with a kind of sense of community that I find very special here, particularly at the high school. It's our job as adults to keep our kids safe so that they are allowed to learn and learn well. Adolescence is hard for a variety of reasons. Our faculty and staff handle a variety of student concerns and issues every day, and they do so with a tremendous sense of professionalism and care for the children of Rockville Center Schools. That is our only agenda. If our students feel safe and connected to the adults in the building, they learn better. That's it. If they feel safe and ready to come to school, they learn. Our job is to teach them, and our job is to help and support them. It's been my experience in my 2.5 years here that our parents and community members value this approach to student concerns. It has also been my experience that our teachers and administrators love our kids. They love your kids. And they want to see them all succeed. And that's my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gavin. We're going to actually stick with you, I think.
Oh, I got another one right now, yeah.
You're next up, and your presentation to the board this evening is on the 25-26 school year course and curricular proposals. So whenever you're ready.
As soon as I can see it, we're good.
Thank you.
So we're very excited tonight to talk about some of the new options that we have for our students here in Rockville Center Schools. I will talk as part of this presentation about some of the changes we've made over the last 3 years, so that people can see that we have been building in advance of the blue ribbon recommendations and the idea that we could potentially have pathways and different options for students. So let's talk about that a little bit right now, as soon as we are good to go, Mary Lou. So, first and foremost, what do we use as we consider, what do we use as reference when we consider offering new opportunities for students? Well, number one, we consider student perspective and experience, and you're going to hear about that tonight. Number two, we consider our mission statement. We consider the blue ribbon recommendations. We consider, are our faculty prepared for some of these new options that we're going to present for students? We think about post-secondary implications. So, does this new option prepare our students for life after high school or life after middle school? And then finally, we think about budget impact and the IB learner profile. But the most important thing here is that we center our presentation around student perspective and experience. And our students do not feel any hesitation to share what they would like to see in their student experience. So what does this proposal and proposal development process look like? Number one, an idea is proposed by a student, faculty member, or administrator. You will see examples of courses that I'm going to recommend and opportunities that I'm going to recommend that have been proposed by a faculty member, that have been proposed by a student, and an administrator. So all three groups are represented in the proposals here tonight. Second, building and central office, we'll come together and discuss, is this feasible? What teacher training do we need to have? What is the budget implication? And then what we do is we come back and we present course offerings to the board for approval, and if approved, we include it in that budget process. So what do we want our courses to do? Number one, we want our courses to expand opportunity, elevate rigor, and of course, increase relevance. So one of the things our students have told us through their climate survey is that our students love to have courses that are relevant to their life after high school. So what are our course proposals for 25-26 at Southside High School? We have, now there's a lot of words on these slides, but I'm not going to go through all the words, but remember, for those watching at home, you can read these slides and the presentation will be available for anyone that wants further information on the website. In addition to that, both the high school and the middle school tomorrow will be emailing communications, if everything is approved, not jumping ahead of the game, if everything is approved, they will be emailing communication to parents tomorrow about these options, specifically, number one, to the parents of our 7th grade students that will be going to 8th grade, because those students have elective options, and then, of course, all of our high school students. So, what are we proposing? Number one, we're really excited about this. We have 2 courses this year that we are proposing that will connect our students to local college campuses. So, the first one we have is called Financial Investments. So the Financial Investments course is basically the personal finance course that we instituted last year, and we are rebranding it so that our students will have the opportunity to visit the Malloy campus, go to their Bloomberg lab, and have the opportunity to be certified in Bloomberg technology. Now, I don't know, for those of you that have been in finance before, the Bloomberg system is really how financial systems are built together. And so we are super excited about that. We are working with, that would be a half-year course. Our students would go to, if they choose to do Bloomberg certification, would go to Malloy about 6 times during that half-a-year course so that they could get their Bloomberg certification. That credential, by the way, is also something that's accepted in the world of finance as an accepted credential in the financial world. The second course that we are excited in terms of Campus Connections is we are offering for the first time computational engineering. This came directly from a student who last year this year right now is a freshman at MIT, and she came to me last year and said, the only thing we don't have here is engineering. Can you build something for us? And this came to me a little bit late at the time, but so we couldn't necessarily get it off the ground for last year, but we are recommending this year a partnership with Hofstra University. This course is an introduction to the algorithms, programming, and numerical methods necessary for engineering problem solving. Students work on a software like Excel, but they also work on a software called MATLAB, which is used by engineers across a variety of disciplines. We are working with students to apply computational thinking to solve engineering problems, and our students will have the opportunity to get Microsoft certified and develop basic programming skills, again, in that software called MATLAB. This is a half-year course. We will also be transporting our students, we believe, Dr. Walsh, 4 times over the course of the semester to Hofstra, where they will have the opportunity to go to the new Science and Innovation Center, which is a $100 million building. And I have been there. It blows things away. Our kids will have the opportunity to use their fabrication lab. Our kids will have the opportunity to use their engineering labs and engineering spaces so that they can see, I'm interested in engineering, and this is what it looks like at college. So just so we don't think we're just all about, like business and engineering and stuff like that, we are also offering some new courses in the arts. So number 1, we are offering the Unified Theater class next year. So this year, for the first time, this year right now, we're offering what is known as a Unified Art class. And this allows our special education students and general education students come together to study the fine arts. The proposal for next year is that our special education students and general education students will have the opportunity to study together theater arts. Why do we do that? We know we have a partnership with Center Stage, and each and every year, our special education students and our general education students put on an extravaganza show. It's usually in June, right? End of May, June. And this course could be something that will prepare both our general education students for that experience and our special education students. Also, another student-initiated course that we are proposing. As the board knows, and as our high school principal certainly knows, there is a wide variety, a deep interest in dance here in Rockville Center. We've had our young ladies come and advocate for a dance team. They've advocated for a dance club, and this year, we're happy to say that not only are we willing to work with them on their dance club, but we are also willing to offer them an in-school dance experience through the course of IB Dance. So we are super excited for this class. This is one of the classes that would satisfy the IB Group 6 subject requirement and can be taken either as an HL level or an SL level class. What else we got? Business. So as I talked about the financial investments, I talked about that as a half-year class. These two are also student-initiated. We've had some significant interest from our business students in the idea of sports marketing. So we are offering for the first time a half-year class in sports marketing where students will learn media relationships, how to do branding, sponsorships, and learn how the impact of consumer behavior on all of those things. And they will also learn how to address this in the context of an evolving sports landscape. We also had some interest from our students on fashion marketing. So we're pairing, not only you would have the opportunity to take sports marketing for a half year, but you would also have the opportunity to take fashion marketing for a half year. Again, same kind of thing, introducing marketing concepts to students in the industry of fashion and exploring the nexus of where fashion and business meet. So again, 2 opportunities where these were, again, to follow up on what the students have asked for in terms of demand, and our high school staff has been instrumental in building and responding to those needs. What else do we have? So these are also some pretty exciting things. we're offering next year, not only do we offer IB classes, but we also offer AP classes here as well. So these are 2 new AP level classes that we are offering next year. The first class that we're offering is called AP Human Geography. And we're offering it predominantly to 9th graders, although if older students wanted to take it, we'd have to find a way to do that. But this would, for students in the 9th grade that are interested in taking an AP level class, this class explores the patterns and processes that shape human interactions with the world. Basically, how does geography and how has geography impacted how societies have developed over the course of time? This is a full year class. You can, if you pass you can, in certain cases, not every college honors that, but if you get a certain level on the AP exam, you can apply for college credit. And it also counts for the 9th grade social studies global history course requirement. So they would get credit like a 9th grade class. Is this going to be, is this a gated class? This is not. If a student from the current 8th grade is interested in taking AP Human Geography or AP HUG, as it is known, they have the opportunity to do so. If a student came and challenged that class and found that it might be too challenging, they could do a level change and go back to global. So just so everyone knows, we're giving that opportunity to everyone. We're not gating that opportunity. We're not making a prerequisite at all. The other thing that we are super excited about, AP for the first time is offering a pilot program on cybersecurity. It is eventually a 2-year program. The goal is to have it as a 2-year program. The first class is the class that we're offering next year. First, you had to be approved for the cybersecurity program, and I'm thankful to say, thanks to the work to the high school, including Mr. Bennett, who's our computer science teacher, he really did a nice job preparing the application. He did a great job convincing them and the AP that we're good to go here. We can do this. So next year, we're talking about network fundamentals. So year 1 would be, what do networks look like? What are the fundamental principles for cybersecurity? How do information systems work? How do students work with data? And other components of that. The cool part about this, if our students take the AP exam and do really well, they can earn a free voucher to, again, take an additional test prep called Test Out Network Pro or Test Out Security Pro and receive what's known as CompTIA Industry Recognition Certification. So at the end of 2 years, so let's say our juniors, or some of our juniors take this class, they do really well. We go into the next year's class, which we're going to offer next year, which is AP Cybersecurity 2, okay? They can earn an industry credential, which means, quite honestly, they can go to work. They don't have to go to college. And they can go get a $120,000 to $150,000 job tomorrow, right after doing these things, because they are industry-based credentials. Both of these courses are full-year courses. Both of these courses offer our students new and rigorous ways to demonstrate and gain understanding. It's not all about the high school, even though the high school thinks it's always about the high school all the time. No offense, Dr. Walsh, no offense. But we do have, we've been working again, in this proposal, this was a teacher who came to us and said, I'd like to do a new class for our 8th grade students. And I think there'd be a large amount of interest if we do it. So we sat down, we talked to her about it, and she made a proposal. And we are proud to offer next year for the middle school 8th grade students, Introduction to Fashion Design. This can take the place for a student that may be taking food science or another elective, and they would have the option to go through and learn practical skills, engaging, explore their creative skills, personal expression, and have hands-on projects, including sewing, including garment construction, and things like that. So we're super excited for that. I do think that class may get 40 to 60 kids for that class in 8th grade. So that one I think could be a big one. AP Cybersecurity, not 40 to 60 kids. Okay, just to kind of put it in perspective, for AP Computers Cybersecurity, there might be 12. But in terms of fashion at the middle school, we will see a big jump up in terms of fashion. At the elementary level, and we have some of our wonderful elementary teachers here. Thank you for coming and showing up. We have a couple of things that we prepare for the elementary. Number one, we have been working on the knowledge-based units, and we have some leaders here in this building here today that have been working with Dr. Moriarty and our directors of curriculum to create those knowledge-based units in grades 3 to 5. Next year, we're going to continue that work in grades K to 2. And then we also have the Social Studies Committee recommendations for impact for social studies, not only at the elementary level, middle school, and high school level, that will be coming at the end of the year this year. So those are the proposals that we have for this year, and I just wanted to walk everyone through, since 2023, what have we done with our program? What are the new options that we've created? And I want everyone to understand that we have designed not only for rigor, but we've also designed for inclusivity. We've also designed for options for students. And we've designed with life after high school in mind. So what have we designed? Well, for IB, we've changed the requirement that TOK just be for full diploma students, and now it's TOK for all. We've offered IB Digital Society, and next year, IB Dance. In computer science, we've added AP Computer Science Principles, AP Computer Science. This year, we're going to propose for next year, AP Cyber Year 1. The year after, in 26-27, we will propose AP Cyber Year 2. We have right now a Python class. We have right now, and we are one of the few around anywhere to have a prompt engineering class that begins at the end of this semester for students that are interested in learning prompt engineering and artificial intelligence. At the middle school level, we have what's known as our inquiry class, where students learn how to research using artificial intelligence in the 8th grade, and we've also added robotics as an elective. Just so everyone thinks, I know I like computers, but I also like the arts. So you could see that reflected in some of the things that we've had here. Our students have never had 6th grade art on prior to this year. So we've changed that, and we've added that 6th grade art. We've added an art portfolio class for students that are highly invested in the arts, so that they have the opportunity to work in depth on the things they want to include in their portfolio. We have, as I mentioned before, added unified art. We've added unified theater. This year we're adding fashion design. I have IB Dance in red, not because it's anything special, other than you could probably count it as an IB class, but you can also count it as an arts class. And we've added digital photography and video. In terms of mathematics, we've added options for students that have not had options before. We've added statistics in everyday life here in the high school. And we've also added for an option for the first time last year, grade 8 math. So if students don't want to take algebra, or parents don't feel that they are prepared for algebra in the 8th grade, they have the option to take grade 8 math. Science, that also is a part of the discussion. So previous to the last year, students were not, the only option they had was earth science, and several of our parents and several of our students have expressed the need that they wanted to do something different, so we were able to offer grade 8 science. Computational engineering is both in computers and in science. The reason it's listed in 2 places is because it's most likely going to be, and don't let them know this, but a physics teacher is going to be teaching it. So one of our physics teachers who we're going to talk to, we've already kind of talked to, but he will be teaching the computational engineering class. In terms of social studies, again, like I just mentioned, we're going to add AP Human Geography next year. The year after, so in 26-27, we are going to add another option for sophomores here at the high school called AP World. So if you are a student in the social studies and you're taking your 4 years of social studies, you will now have the option to take AP Human Geography as a 9th grader, AP World as a 10th grader, and then go into IB History in 11th and 12th grade, which is a very rigorous path in terms of humanities, and we're very excited about that. We have also added, for students that did not want a co-seated option for 11th grade U.S. history with a co-seated option with IB, we've added 11R as a U.S. history, and we've added the same thing for English, an 11R ELA option for students. In terms of business and finance, we know that our DECA Club is one of the biggest things we have. We know that IB Business typically gets anywhere from 100 to 140 students in the class. And we know that our kids like business classes because they see the relevance to life after high school. What is that? What are the things that we've added? Well, the personal finance class we added last year, I have it in red only because we are rebranding it into financial investment so that the students can get a Bloomberg certification. So I don't want anyone to think we have personal finance and financial investments. We are changing the name so that our students can get that. We also added a virtual enterprise class that our students go through run a virtual business and compete in competitions. And the kids love it. Again, we've added sports marketing, and we've also added fashion marketing as well. And at the elementary level, we have worked to create our knowledge-based units in grades 3 to 5. We've revamped K to 5 science enrichment program. We've added coding and robotics and Stellar. And next year, we'll be adding knowledge-based units in grades K to 12. So over the last 3 years, you can see, and this actually extends a little bit further out, including into the future, some of the changes we've made here. And I'd be happy to take any, well, I forgot I have another slide. Sorry, I don't want to jump the gun. So for all of our parents out there, how do I learn more about, are these options right for my child? Well, there are a number of ways you can figure this out. The first point of contact for our secondary parents, so your child's in the middle school, your first point of contact is your middle school guidance counselor. I'm interested in fashion for my daughter. What couldn't she take if she takes fashion? Those are the kind of questions you should ask. If she takes and chooses fashion, she's interested, what are the things that she might give up on the flip side? Those are the questions I expect our guidance counselors can answer. We also have parent-teacher conferences at the secondary level that we started last year for the first time, and will continue this year, and will continue well into the future. So anyone during the spring, after you've filled out your course requests, if you still have questions about whether or not those electives are right for your child, you can have a direct conversation with your child's teacher. So definitely exercise that. And then, of course, you can always email administration. You can always email your building principal, Dr. Moriarty, myself, Mr. Murphy, whoever you feel is the best contact. But here are your best contacts. Number one, any scheduling question, talk to your child's guidance counselor, okay? For the high school, you can talk to Ms. Ramsey, who is our director of guidance, but you can also talk to Dr. Walsh or any of the assistant principals. They can help you out. At the middle school, you can talk to the assistant principals, Ms. McGinn or Kelly Ramsey. Special education, if there are any questions about what impact would these electives or courses have on my child's IEP? How would this work for a student that might have special needs? Talk to Marie Dalton. She is our best point of contact. You can also talk to your child's building CSE chair or your child's special education teacher. All of those people are great points of contact. Any questions about curriculum, you can of course talk to Nicole, Dr. Moriarty. And then if there are any district-wide questions that you might have, or any questions that you might have in general, please contact me directly. So now I think I can open up for questions for the board.
Thank you, Mr. Gavin. Some exciting opportunities ahead in your proposals. I'll turn it over to the board for comments or questions at this time.
I'm going to jump in.
Sure.
I agree. Thank you. I mean, just looking at the changes that have happened over the past couple of years and all the options out there, I think it speaks to a new experience that's happening for students in Rockwell Center, which is fantastic. I like the flexibility. I like the options. Just a few questions. The new high school course proposals in conjunction with Malloy and Hofstra. So just so I'm understanding, most of the work will be done during the school day here. So it won't, my concern was that it would be a challenge for kids who are trying to fit in a full schedule, how that was going to work. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
So for the computational engineering class, there will be 4 in-school field trips over the course that the course is running. So we're looking to change the times of those field trips so that if a child has physics first period, they won't miss it 4 times.
Okay.
Okay? So that's one thing. We're trying to do the same thing with the visits to Malloy for the financial investment class. One thing that will be a challenge is that if we had, say, 80 students that wanted to go and do the financial investment, that might be a challenge because Malloy only has 12 Bloomberg terminals. So that might require some logistics on our end. But I want our students to know, and I want our parents to know, you can take the financial investment class without doing the Bloomberg certification. This is an option should you choose to exercise it. In the case of that class, we are looking to schedule again on a rotating basis so that our students don't miss the same class each and every time. We are looking to schedule those same kind of trips over to Malloy so students have the opportunity to practice in their Bloomberg lab. Now, other districts have decided to put in a Bloomberg lab. That is an expensive proposition that can run anywhere from $350,000 to $500,000. This is a way for us to gauge interest. If our students show significant interest in here, then one of the things I would consider down the road would be to come back and say, maybe we need to include this as part of our budget process.
Makes sense. And like, I'm assuming kids will talk with their guidance counselors about any prereqs that are required for any of these courses, but I'm thinking the computational engineering is mostly for our upperclassmen.
Computational engineering right now we think would be either juniors or seniors. The math that we would expect them to have is at least Algebra 2
Okay,
at this point. We'd like them to have already taken physics, but it's not a prerequisite. The physics does help in terms of the engineering, so I could see this being predominantly seniors, but not, if there was a junior, and we have juniors each and every year that are really outstanding science students that want to avail themselves of this opportunity, I don't think, we would preclude them from doing so.
okay. And then just a few comments. I love all the things we've added for the middle school. I think one of the things that we really need to take a look at is the fact that the vast majority of electives are only available to 8th graders. So if there's a way that we can just, particularly as we're doing our strategic planning and looking the next few years, if we can try to, I don't know, I don't have the answer. I just think it would be great if some of our 7th graders in particular could have the opportunity to take some of these things. And I've said this before, I'll reiterate it again. I know we have parent-teacher conferences. I know parents can contact their child's guidance counselor. I really think we need some kind of, I won't call it an orientation, but some kind of presentation that allows parents to see the full scope from middle school through high school to just get a bigger picture. It's here. We've talked about it here before. But unless you've lived through it with an older child, then you have a much better understanding. But until you've done that, it's very hard to know 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, sort of what your options are and where you might want your child to focus.
So before, I don't want to interrupt, but part of the communication going home specifically from the middle school, there's going to be an email that goes home, but in that email will be a link to a presentation that goes through all of what an 8th grade schedule could look like, and it also goes through what the electives are with bigger descriptions. So not just my descriptions here, but descriptions about how that might play out as well. So in the communication that we plan, at least on the 8th grade level, that's in there. The high school also, they don't have a presentation as a separate link, but they do have all of the course descriptions that are in there.
I appreciate those things. I don't think that gets the same degree of understanding
Agreed.
or attention. So I would just put it out there as something to perhaps try, some kind of place where parents can come, hear a presentation, get their questions answered. And then the only other thing I'm going to throw out there, particularly if we're adding AP social studies courses, there is a very large jump that kids go through from 10th grade to 11th grade in terms of what the writing requirements are in IB. And AP will have similar level writing requirements. I think it would be helpful if there was an opportunity. I know at the high school we just started offering seniors the opportunity to come in early before school started, right, and work on college essays. I think we did that this year for the first time. I think some kind of writing workshop targeted towards that higher level writing that needs to be done in those courses, even if it's, in the last week before school, an additional thing that's optional. I don't have a good answer again for it, but I think it could be really valuable to kids because I don't think we do a great job of helping them bridge that gap. So I'm just putting that out there as something to think about.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really happy about just looking at the scope of what we've done so far and where we're going. And I also love the continuum that we've kind of created for our young learners all the way through. So if they, we've talked about this a lot, but we've created pipelines for students that have talents and interests from very early ages, and they have opportunities to keep growing with that. One comment, I love the Unified Theater. It's one of my favorite things that we're offering. It speaks to our philosophy in the district, which is that our students are all integrated and there are no gates, as you mentioned. My biggest concern is that I want our special ed students to be able to avail themselves to it. We've had that kind of issue of not being able to fit electives into their day with support classes or what they're taking. So I just want to make sure we can run this and run it with fidelity because I just want our students to be able to avail themselves to it.
Sure.
I think it would be a fantastic opportunity for all of our students. So that's a comment, and I'm, again, love that one. One of the other questions I have is, I know we do budget talks kind of later and we bring this in, but just for the general public to know, when they look at this, this looks like we've added a lot of budget towards this.
Right.
You've actually done a great job of repurposing.
Yep.
So it's more of a comment than a question. I know we'll get to that later, but I guess the question part of it is, this year, do you foresee any huge budget implications by adding these courses?
Huge, no. The one course that I would say, the two courses that I would say will have more of an impact on the budget, but a relatively small, will be the two courses where there will be transportation.
Okay.
So where we're going to be transporting kids to the colleges, that will add some money to our transportation budget, which quite honestly goes up a lot all of the time. But we do not anticipate next year needing to add new teachers for any of these. We do not, and since I'm here, we have reduced staff overall. The only area where we've really kind of gone up staff was at the elementary level, and that was due to the way the elementary kids split in terms of sections. If our projections, which again, kindergarten enrollment, you never know, and you'd never know enrollment in a lot of places so like, for example, if Riverside has 25 kids, we would split a class at 26. But we keep in our budget 2 contingent positions, particularly for the elementary level, so that if Hewitt's kindergarten right now, which is at 74, gets 3 kids or 2 kids, we would add an extra section for next year. Okay. Now, sometimes we don't know that as part of the budget process. Sometimes we don't know that until Labor Day. So that's something that we work with, and as people come, we make sure that we have that built into the budget as well. And I know that the board has been very supportive of the options that we've had, but also cognizant of the financial implications, and we've tried to stay within or below our allocated or allowed tax levy each and every year.
So keeping in mind that we're being mindful of that, and we have been to this point, with all of these options, what would you say is your base number of students you need in a course to run it?
It kind of depends. I can imagine that class for computational engineering being like as low as 7, as much as maybe 15. I don't expect it to be 15, given the fact that for our seniors this year, or for our seniors next year, most of them already know what they want to take because they want full IB diplomas. Right. So that may change in years to come, but for next year, I could see that being a lower in terms of enrollment class. We have run classes as low as 5 or 6, but sometimes, let's say, for example, we have an IB Theater class and an IB Theater 1 and an IB Theater 2 class. Sometimes we will co-seat them together. Okay. So if there were 4 seniors in that class and maybe 6 juniors, we would, instead of having 2 sections where a teacher would have to use 2 periods, we would co-seat that class and offer that during 1 period. It's more challenging for the teacher because you have to do 2 curriculums, certainly. But in terms of theater, that would be something that we've done in the past. We've also done that in other instances of low enrollment classes. Say, for example, an IB Art class, IB Art 1 and 2. It's easier to kind of manage those things, and it's also more cost effective.
Yeah, so I guess that would be my last kind of lingering thought is all of these options, now we're just trying logistically to figure out kids fitting this into their day. So in the interest of not diluting many electives, but that we can consider repurposing old electives that maybe are not running as well anymore, and just really auditing all of those in conjunction with the newest ones, because financially it makes sense, and for again, running things with fidelity and just the quality of it. So I would say options are great. Students have 9 periods a day.
Yep.
Many of them in the high school are already foregoing lunch to be able to take some of these great things. That's their choice. But they do that to enrich their day in the best maximum way. So I would just ask that we're auditing our electives as a whole.
So, for example, IB Digital Society was a proposal. It didn't have an enrollment. We didn't run it. So, like, it's a great class. I would love to teach that class, but we didn't have the demand.
Right.
So that is partially that the teachers have to go and talk to the kids about what these are and how these fit into programs, and guidance counselors have to do the same. But we also have to, like, if one kid asked to take the class, we probably would not run that class. Right. So in terms of that, And we also want to make sure that we're communicating about all of our options, not just our IB and AP, but also our grade level classes, grade 8 math, grade 8 science, as well as our 11R ELA and our 11R history, so that we not only just hit the ones that are AP or IB, but also that as well. And we know, and we're probably pretty close, we eventually run out of kids, right? So if you had 60 electives, I don't have 4,000 kids in the high school where I can make that as something that could run effectively. So we are probably pretty close to seeing the amount of electives that we can get over time. And we have to make sure that, again, maybe there's a class that has run with low incidence before, and now kids are taking fashion. What does that do to food science, right? If students at the high school are taking AP computer science, what are they not taking? So those are the things that we have conversations with the high school and the middle school admin a lot about what they need to get done, and make sure that our students are still graduating with transcripts that are attractive to the colleges that they wish to go to.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. I really appreciate the variety of courses that are being offered next year. I think one of the concerns our community has had over the past few years really does relate to the breadth and depth of our course catalog. And I think our community has asked for options. I think they've asked for choice, and I think it clearly shows that we're offering that we're a work in progress, and we're continuing to build bigger and better to meet the needs of all of our students. So I really appreciate that. I'm really excited about the different opportunities our students have to earn credentials that will prepare them for real-world work experiences right out of high school. I think that's an excellent thing that we can offer for our kids, especially for our students who may not be or potentially interested in college at this very moment, or really ever, that they're able to go out into the world and get a job that pays them well above what minimum wage would offer. So I think that's great. I do wonder a little bit about other certifications that we might be able to offer. It feels like some of the certifications that we have really do require higher level coursework. For students who aren't taking those courses, who aren't taking Algebra 2 or Physics, who might not have the prereqs to get into some of these courses, I do wonder what else could we offer. How can we make sure that every student, regardless of where they are on our continuum, could potentially leave this high school with a credential in something? And I think that would be a great thing to think about. Obviously, years in the making, but really thinking about making sure that we have a spectrum of credentials to say that you are going to be college and career ready when you leave this school.
So, not to interrupt, but we had a meeting yesterday with our high school, middle school, and elementary facilitators with our administrative team to talk about what these credentials could potentially be down the road. So we know that one of the transformations that New York State is requiring over the course of the Blue Ribbon implementation, which we went over the last time, is they're looking at how do work experiences play into in terms of how do students earn high school credit. So one of the conversations we were talking about is what would that potentially look like here at Southside. So we know we have students that avail themselves of BOCES programs that are trade-based and have a wonderful experience, and they too can enter the workforce above minimum wage. So these are all different conversations that we've been having because we know as New York State changes or offers latitude to districts on how students can earn credit and demonstrate competency, we feel that we are going to be very well positioned for that. But certainly the conversations yesterday were extraordinarily creative and fruitful. So it was great to have all of our facilitators in the room and asking questions. What does it look like in 3 years? What does this mean? What does it mean to scheduling, not only at the middle school, but at the high school? What does that scheduling look like so that our students don't feel like they are running from 39-minute to 39-minute, never eating, and then their feet are barely touching the ground, and then at the end of the day, they're going to 3 hours of sports or 3 hours of dance or something like that. So we were starting to have that conversation yesterday, and I was so impressed with the quality of conversation from our facilitators and the thought and understanding that they have as we design with purpose. So you'll see elements of that as we start to give our strategic plan recommendations at the end of the year, because we want to design 3 years out. So what does it look like for us 3 years out, and what are the steps we can have to do to get there?
That's great. I also, some of my notes were very similar to Mrs. Gruner's regarding the middle school. And again, while we're adding all this wonderful at the high school, really thinking about what our middle school program entails as well. And I do agree to an extent that electives are nice and it's good to give kids choice, and certainly there should be joy in every student's day.
Agreed.
But I also do feel very strongly as a middle school educator that the middle school is really all about building a foundation: reading, writing, listening, speaking, and mathematics. And to that point, and to the point about writing, I do think it would be really quite a good idea if we had a class built in that was like a writing lab. And I don't know if it's a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade class, but when you think about if I'm a child who's going off to college eventually, the majority of the work that I submit is going to be in writing. And I know that we have AP classes, I know that we have the IB program that will help our kids to develop those skills, but I think the earlier those skills are built, the stronger they're going to be when they leave. And then to Mrs. Gruner's point, which I have not lived, the 10 to 11 transition yet,
Yes.
I do think that's very overwhelming when you take a child and ask them to write to a level that they are not ready to. And what does that mean to do that research and to put together something that's cohesive, and then to get feedback that might be very, like the process being very difficult, but then to receive feedback like you've never received feedback before. I think that could be very debilitating for a student. So I think one of our greatest things that we need to ensure is that our students are extremely strong writers, and I really do think that happens at the middle level, taking a good hard look at that program and figuring out where can we infuse this.
Absolutely.
And then my last request is the same request I've had many times. As we enroll our classes, can we please not auto-enroll anyone into any class, especially at the middle level? Can we make it very clear and transparent that you can check box A or box B, and we're not throwing everyone into the 8th grade algebra and earth science?
Well, the letter you'll see as a parent of a 7th grader. You will see the letter tomorrow, and you will see how it's pitched along with the presentation, and you will see that those options are front and center
And that my child won't be enrolled in an 8th grade class until I pick a box?
until you pick a box.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, and I agree that, these proposals certainly show the commitment from Rockville Center Schools to adapt and acknowledge that technology is changing rapidly. Typically, education changes much more slowly than technology does, but we need to be thinking ahead at what our students will need in their future. And I think at the high school level, as a parent of students who have applied to college and are in college and have graduated from college, it's getting more specific, whereas it used to not be an application to a specific program within a university. And colleges, really, admissions offices are wanting to see that students have experience in computer science if they are applying to be a computer science major. So I think that it's really important to give students this kind of playground, if you will, and it is in no way and shouldn't be a trade-off with the basics, right? To everyone's point, we are still providing the fundamentals: English, history, science, social studies, math. All of these foundational skills are still in play. These are, by and large, electives. One of my concerns is, I think one of the great things about the IB program is that it typically starts in 11th grade, right? So students have these foundational courses. AP has no such requirement. So as you mentioned, 9th graders can take AP Human Geography. I worry, and I would ask that the counseling, I'm sure the counselors have thought this through, and that high school and even the middle school counselors keep an eye on students who might take on too much. We want students to have lunch. We want them to consider their mental health, and we don't want them stacking up every available AP class just to have AP stats, AP
Sometimes-
calculus,
right.
AP cybersecurity.
Sometimes we need to save them from themselves. Yes.
Right. Right.
We do have high-achieving students that will tend, if you give them the option, to overload themselves. So that's a conversation that we need to have with the parents, with the students, certainly. We want the student involved in that conversation. Do you understand the workload? And each and every year, especially as they go through the high school, particularly when you get to junior year, the workload elevates. And you can have the conversations with 10th graders. As much as I tell you that it's going to be a little bit harder next year when you're full IB, they do not understand till sometime in October. And then they understand. So in terms of the juniors, that there is a workload. So we've been working That's one of the reasons we're thinking about AP Human Geography, which is a manageable course for ninth graders, because it will give them not only the conceptual introduction, the way we want social studies taught, which is important, right? The intersection between how geography impacts the way societies develop, that's really important. But it also requires a level of rigor in terms of reading and response to reading in terms of writing. And then the goal would be next year for those students that feel comfortable and have that option, they would have the option for AP World as a sophomore. So then the level of writing for our students in 11th grade when they hit it, it's still going to be a jump. I'm never going to tell you it's not going to be a jump. It's going to be a jump, but it won't be as much of a shock, shall we say. And I know that Dr. Moriarty in the English department has also been working on that for 9 and 10 in terms of English and how that plays out.
Good, thank you. And I think we just want to be mindful of not creating a pressure cooker sort of environment, right? This is a place for rigor and study, but not a place that places too much of a burden. And in terms of balancing these needs of our students with mindful spending and respect for what we're asking of our taxpayers, I think related to that is this idea that students can take this cybersecurity class. They would not typically learn networking in any high school. Networking is the college level sort of discipline, and to get those licensing credentials that could potentially fund a college education, right? Or associate's degree in networking can really open up a lot of doors for our students. And then the last thing I wonder, and I'm just thinking of it as we're discussing IB dance, maybe a question for Mr. McGuire, could that ever be seen as a potential
PE credit?
PE credit?
We're working on it.
Good.
That's one of the things that we'd like to be able to offer. So that's a scheduling issue, because not only do you have to have a dance teacher, but you'd have to have someone that is PE certified. So if you have the opportunity, say, for a PE teacher to kind of work alongside, you can issue a PE credit. So number one, we want to look at enrollment. So let's say we had 40, good luck, Steve. But if we had, say, 2 sections of IB dance, that would be 40 less kids that you would have in PE potentially, so you'd be able to kind of work that out. So that's something that is a scheduling nightmare for Dr. Walsh and particularly Mrs. Green, who does 90% of our scheduling. But as the schedule fills with kids' requests, it starts to take shape. That will start to take shape during March and April. We'll get a better sense of where the kids are. It will finalize in terms of what our courses we're going to run sometime in like May. By June, we've really kind of nailed the schedule down, and we're just tweaking, or we're looking at problems. So, for example, Dr. Downing's schedule has her double schedules for a period. We have to kind of run those schedules and kind of go through it. And then we finalize it and we send it to our parents and to our kids in September or late August, excuse me. So, but to your point about not overscheduling, we know that the vast majority of our students here take rigorous coursework, also have millions of after-school activities, whether it's through school and it's sports, or clubs, or theater, or whatever, or their own activities that they do outside of school. So we have to be cognizant of that as well. And we are. And our students are impressing me each and every day in each and every way.
And you're bringing some of that extracurricular into the school day as well, especially with the Unified Theater, right? So
Yep.
that's a center stage production that would be hours after school that can at least take some of that burden into the school day. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gavin. Turning to policies, we have no new policies tonight at stage 1. Currently at stage 2, we have 6111, staff conflict of interest. Any questions or comments? Okay to move this? 7513, administration of medication. Okay to move? 7515, students and staff with life-threatening health conditions.
So on page 2, subsection E, this section basically deals with giving an EpiPen in an emergency situation. And in this section, it says that it has to be delivered either by a trained staff member or in an emergency, a staff member who's been directed to medical professional. And then later on page 3, there's a different paragraph that says it has to be administered only by someone who's been trained. So there was a little bit of a conflict. I don't know, we had asked Mr. Miller to help us out with that. I don't know if he can.
Mr. Miller, do you mind just explaining?
Yeah, so in a dire emergency where no one trained was around, the Good Samaritan law would allow someone to administer the EpiPen. If you're like, we could tweak that language for you to make it more clear the differences.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just,
Yeah.
Sure.
I think we can probably move it. I mean, that's up to you. I
So
don't know.
that's currently at stage 2. Is the board comfortable moving it with that addition and revision? Or do you want to hold it, see the revision, and come back to it at stage 2 next meeting? Okay. Mrs. Celebrity will hold it at stage 2 till next meeting. Mr. Miller, you'll make that language change for us, please? Thank
Yes.
you. Currently at stage 3, we have 5211, gate receipts and admissions.
Rescinding this.
Yes. That will be on for next meeting. 5240, property tax exemptions.
No, it's no change.
Okay. 5250, sale and disposal of school district property.
No change.
Okay, that will be on for approval. 5340, borrowing of funds.
Yep, good.
And 5350, payroll.
Same.
Okay. Those will be on for approval at the next meeting. Okay, the next item, we have to discuss the 25-26 school year district calendar. Just to explain the process, yeah, some ears just perked up here.
What days are we getting off next year?
Just to explain the process, there is a committee that meets to discuss, look at the calendar, and go through various iterations that comes to the board for consideration. At this time, we have 2 versions. I'm going to ask in a moment Mr. Gavin to walk us through the key differences between the 2 versions. Those will be posted. Mrs. Celebrity will post those tonight or tomorrow on our website, and we'll attach. They're attached to the agenda, yes. And we will discuss this again for approval at the February 6th meeting. So there'll be some time for feedback from community members on the 2 district calendar versions that we have in front of us this evening. So Mr. Gavin, at this time, can you just kind of walk us through the main differences between the 2 versions for consideration?
Sure. Right now, the only major difference, next year's calendar is actually not difficult in terms of the way the holidays fall. So a few years ago, we had some difficulties when we had both the Easter and Passover holidays that were separated that caused some difficulties in the way we were able to develop the calendar. Next year is not that case. The 2 major differences in draft 1, the recommendation would be to start Superintendent's Conference Day after Labor Day, which would be the 2nd of September, and start school on the 3rd of September. What that does not allow is a day that we've had historically here, which is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So, the audience has spoken. That would be one way that would be one option. Yeah, one option. But for those people that like to start everything after Labor Day, that might be something that people are interested in, including our faculty and staff. The second option on the calendar, again, there are no differences on any of the other December holidays, November holidays, February holidays, January holidays, and April holidays. The only other difference would be we could do Superintendent's Conference Day in August, on August 28th. The students would start on the 2nd, the day after Labor Day, so they would start on Tuesday, and then we would have the ability to have the Wednesday before Thanksgiving off. Is that Jeff or a teacher? So those are really the 2 major differences in terms of options.
Thank you.
Every single other piece, we would still have, both would end June 26th, which would be the Friday, that last Friday of the full week in June. So, and graduation would be on that day as well.
Thank you, Mr. Gavin. Of note, in addition to the 2 versions of the draft calendar, there's the draft restricted dates as well for the 25-26 school year. And as I mentioned, we'll be coming back to that it will be on the agenda for approval at the February 6th meeting. Opportunity for Superintendent, Mr. Gavin.
Certainly, thank you. Okay, let's make sure I got the right stuff out. So, one thing, where the heck did I put it? Here, excuse me. Here it is, there we go. On the PAR this evening, we are accepting, with deep regret, the resignation of John Murphy for purposes of retirement in June. As you can see, Watson, you guys should come all the time.
Seriously.
Because it's like, really, you're like playing to the studio audience back in the 70s on a sitcom. But in all honesty, for me, I've known John for 2.5 years, and I know that John has faithfully and expertly served our school district for many years as an outstanding he hates this, by the way, as an outstanding and beloved teacher, an assistant principal, a high school principal, an assistant superintendent, and deputy superintendent. In each role, John has served professionally and with the care of our students always predominant in his mind. His understanding of curriculum, his prodigious intellect and vocabulary, and his love for literature, combined with his relentless energy, will be greatly missed. For me personally, John has been an absolutely amazing colleague, thought partner, and I will continue to do my best to make sure that I learn from his example in the remaining months of Murphy. Very taciturn, John, to use one of your words.
Tough to, yes, I've thought about that, actually. Just to follow up, on behalf of the board at this time, Mr. Murphy, I've known you for longer than 2.5 years. At this moment, I just simply, on behalf of the board, want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you are. Thank you for all that you've done for so many of us, all of our students and our staff over the course of your career here in Rockville Center. And Mr. Gavin kind of stole my line, but many more months of Murphy left to use an alliteration. We will have time to fully honor you and give you all of the admiration that you deserve, but I just wanted to make that note tonight on behalf of the board, so thank you, John. Opportunity for board members. You're done for tonight. Ms. Messier?
Thanks. I just wanted to start off with a note of gratitude for everyone's flexibility tonight. I had a work engagement that kept me at work past 7, so I appreciate that everyone was flexible enough to move the meeting back to 8 so that I could be here on time for it. I'd also like to thank the Rockville Center Ed Foundation for their generous donation. I appreciate our partnership and your dedication to supporting our students and our staff. I'd also like to welcome Mrs. Rayak. I'm looking forward to working with you. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your last name right. And then just finally, congrats to Mr. Murphy on your impending retirement. I'll save my, in your words, okay, thanks, bye speech, and the duet that I'm planning with Darren for June. Thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Gavin and team. I'm really proud of what you've accomplished together. I know we've had change over the last few years, but I just feel the presentation is a great example of our student advocacy, our faculty advocacy, the input that's important to us from every voice. Everybody at our dais, welcome, Jackie. We're so happy to have you. It's been an exciting time for us, and I think we have great things to do. So I just think that this is the type of thing our community really wants to hear of what is happening with our students, how we're educating them, how we're supporting them, and how we're creating a culture of respect and supporting their talents and their interests and their academics. So thank you for that. I think it's really important. I echo the gratitude to the Rockville Center Ed Foundation. They've been an amazing organization and friends to us for many years. I look forward to your annual gala this year and supporting that. They had their Schoolapalooza again and some really creative fundraising opportunities that they've put forward the last few years. So thank you to them. And finally, Mr. Murphy, this is the only way you were leaving this district, to be honest. I mean, retirement is the only way we could actually swallow this, because we really are happy for you. And we will miss you. We don't know what Rockville Center looks like without you. That is really true. You've been a pinnacle of hope and love and support, and have worn your all emotions on your sleeve for us all of the years and all of the things that you've done. And you are really, truly the lifeblood of this district and always have been. And I truly adore you and will miss you. But yes, we're doing this again in June, so get used to it. Sorry.
Thank you. Mrs. Gruner?
Just keep it short and sweet. Welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year. Also want to thank the Ed Foundation and everybody who contributed to their fundraiser in the community. It's a really great partnership. Mr. Murphy, I've said it to you before, but your integrity is one of the things I value most about you. So it will be sorely missed, and you will be sorely missed. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Dr. Downing?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gavin, for the updates and all the information tonight. I am excited for these new course proposals. I think the additional AP offerings offer our students new options in history and the arts, as well as that really practical option in technology. And I like that we're listening to the students who are asking for these options. We need to continue to address student voice and choice. And thanks to the Ed Foundation for all of the support that they give our teachers that help us build and innovate these new programs without necessarily having a direct impact on our school budget as we test them out. We are waiting on our governor's budget proposal to see what it means for state aid to our districts. Our enrollment is strong, and our taxpayers really deserve full funding for our schools here in New York State. As we are beginning to plan for the next school budget, it's important for us as board members to tour our school buildings. So thank you to Mrs. Pascarella and everyone at Watson for the site visit yesterday. I'm looking forward to meeting with Mrs. DiMartino at Covert next week, and I'll be attending the PTA meetings next month as well. And on that note, I think as we begin the new year, if you haven't already gotten involved at your child's school, I really encourage you to do so. We know that a strong connection between home and school absolutely is an important factor in student success. I have been reading on my to-be-read pile is The Anxious Generation, as I've just started it, this new book about childhood mental health and the challenges that our students with a phone-based childhood have, and it's just not recognizable to those of us who didn't grow up with these digital distractions. So parenting is hard, teaching is hard, and so many of us need to find ways to work together. I know that we can. Parents, teachers, administrators, community members, we can find ways to support our kids and support each other. And I'm just sitting here doing the math, and my very first high school PTA meeting was 10 years ago. And at the high school PTA meetings, the assistant principals introduce themselves and what they are responsible for. And at that first meeting, I have a very clear memory of Mrs. Dockery, Mr. Chung, Mrs. Levy, and other assistant principals introducing themselves and also saying that they were members of the John Murphy fan club. And I love that there are clearly more members of that fan club here as well tonight. So thank you for everything, and more to come for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. To echo Dr. Downing's note of thanks to the principals opening up their doors for our site visits, just so we go through the process again. The board tours the different schools with members of central administration and custodial staff, and of course the building principals. We bring that back to our budget discussions, so in the upcoming meetings when we're presenting our capital pieces, whatever information we bring back and see what needs need to be met in each building, that will be folded into the budget presentations that will be upcoming. So thank you in advance to everyone involved with that. Opportunity for visitors. The public is reminded to address questions or remarks to the board through its president. It's requested to refrain from making any direct references to students or staff members that could be considered critical of their performance or their character. Such references to individual students or staff members are inappropriate in a public forum and should instead be conducted in private conversation with appropriate members of the staff. The public is asked to state their name and address and to please limit their comments to 3 minutes.
No way, 3 minutes.
Just make sure your mic is on. Yeah. Just, yeah,
I'm just kidding.
perfect, thank you.
I'm going to stay on script, except to say, Watson loves John Murphy. And we just want to say thank you. And thank you to everybody. Okay. Good evening and Happy New Year. Brad Paisley has a great quote for the new year. We used it in 4th grade. He says that a new year is the first day in a 365-page book. So write a good one. Well, here in Rockwell Center, our years circulate around a school-wide calendar, whether it starts in August or September. And the new book we began writing in August at Watson is definitely a bestseller. We are proud to speak on behalf of the Watson staff and faculty who are here tonight and at school to tell you about some of the magic happening throughout the halls of Watson. We have all probably said the acronym PRIDE, preparation, respect, integrity, determination, and enthusiasm a million times this year, for real, as we refer to our school-wide positive behavior intervention plan, but the word truly carries a lot of weight at Watson. As we all have great pride in the great strides and fantastic experiences our students have enjoyed throughout the year thus far, and we are really just getting started. The 24-25 school year launched with a Patriot Day ceremony where we all came together to honor the heroes we are so fortunate to be surrounded by. We have danced together on the field for our annual dance-a-thon. We've gathered together for our On the Same Page assemblies, complete with an amazing cameo appearance by our beloved Mr. Mitchell, who, even though has moved on to Southside Middle School, will always be a Wildcat, just like all of our alumni. The Watson community honed our mathematical thinking at our incredible enrichment night in October. We've laughed together at our famous Halloween play and have come together to show that Watson truly is the GOAT. We have turkey trotted. Oh, that's because we had a fundraiser for the GOAT. That's why. That was why. We have turkey trotted, celebrated the successes of our musicians at the winter concert, and cheered on our fourth grade circus performers. There literally is always something to celebrate, cheer for, or participate in at Watson. Many kids have had the choice to earn a coin for our book vending machine that came from the RBC Ed Foundation, who we always appreciate. And it's hard to walk through Watson without seeing the love of learning.
From the cutest kindergartners to the empowered 5th graders, each grade is embracing every opportunity. Our kindergartners have teamed up with our 5th grade buddies. We designed Thanksgiving Day floats and had a parade throughout the school. Last week we had a wedding ceremony for the letters Q and U, followed by a bubble dance party. And next week our kindergartners are going to our teddy bear clinic. Our 1st graders have loved their trip to Dee's nursery and have adopted the cutest little reading buddies. 2nd grade just led our school in a New Year's celebration where we all tossed our best wishes for a positive new year in the air together, just like they do in Times Square. They are currently preparing for their annual play, which is entitled What Has Happened to Spring, which we're all very excited to see, especially me. 3rd graders just saw their beloved class novel, Wild Robot, come to life on the big screen, and we're beyond excited to go to China in an upcoming assembly program. 4th graders have become budding conversationalists as they have teamed up with the Sandal Center to have monthly meetups, forging connections, and finding the art of conversation. 5th graders have taken leadership roles in the building and can be found delivering morning announcements, spreading kindness as part of the Kindness Committee, or taking pictures for Watson's social media. Everyone is literally buzzing with activity every day.
Outside of the classrooms is really no different. Our hackathon team is hard at work and beyond enthusiastic about competing later this month. The club schedule at Watson offers students the chance to hone their chess skills, create an edition of the school newspaper, build with Legos, foster the love of art, play gym for intramurals, advocate for others. The list just goes on and on. A beloved 1st grade teacher who retired a really long time ago, but you will remember, used to say, "They grow and they go." And boy, do they. We all love when our alumni come to visit, and we love following along on their journeys and hearing of their successes and offering support when they need it. We recently had a Watson alum who is a junior at Southside High School teach a coding class to a group of 4th and 5th graders. Rockville Center truly is an amazing community, and everyone at Watson is so happy to be just even a part of the big picture. We thank the board for their time and dedication they pour into our district, and we thank the whole administrative team for their support and enthusiasm. Thank you for your time, and thank you for always supporting our school. Have a great night and Happy New Year.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Deborah Zuckerman. I live at 268 Morris Avenue. And I am beyond thrilled to see my favorite Watson teachers here tonight. It is wonderful. And the reason I'm speaking is really because I can't tell you how appreciative I am of this district and its support for its people. I apologize. You have supported my special needs child, my totally traditional child, and I love that you follow the law to support the state's laws to support somebody who needs additional care. I have a transgender daughter, and I know that she would have been so happy to be here because I know she'd have been supported. And I am so grateful to this district. And I just wanted to say that, and that's all.
Thank you.
William Cooney, 91 Hempstead Avenue. The purpose of the board's publication of an agenda is to give notice to the public of those topics that will be discussed at public board meetings. It is disappointing, to say the least, that the board did not publish a complete and accurate agenda of tonight's proceedings. I urge the board to return to its former practice of doing so, not least of which because it will avoid accusations that it is playing partisan games. Basic fairness, if not the law, requires nothing less. Yesterday, I sent a letter to the board asking for the specific legal basis for the board's and its council's belief that state law requires students to be permitted to use bathrooms, locker rooms, and similar facilities designated for the opposite sex, as opposed to gender-neutral single-occupancy facilities or facilities designated for their actual sex. Today, a federal court in Tennessee v. Cardona has vacated the Biden administration's attempt to rewrite Title IX as if it applied to gender identity. While this decision is focused on federal law as opposed to New York state law, the court's analysis applies to New York law as well. Specifically, the court makes clear the federal law that would have purported to give students the right to access facilities of the opposite sex because of their supposed gender identity is arbitrary and capricious. It was found arbitrary and capricious because it has the practical effect of eliminating single-sex facilities for all students. Can your counsel explain how the district's policy of permitting students to access facilities of the opposite sex is not arbitrary and capricious, and thus in violation of the federal court order in today's decision in Tennessee v. Cardona?
So at the beginning of the meeting, we had explained that our counsel was here to walk us through the issues that have come before the board at recent meetings. Mr. Miller, at this time, do you want to add anything?
Do you want me to answer the question again?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. We went through the discussion of what state law is. We went through a discussion that a case like this would be litigated before the State Division of Human Rights, not in a federal court, not in a state court. We went through what the guidance is from the State Division of Human Rights that will be enforced before the State Division of Human Rights. The federal ruling you're talking about has nothing to do with New York state law. The federal ruling that you're talking about had to do with invalidating regulations passed by the Biden administration, which were going to be repealed anyway by the Trump administration. It does not have to do with an interpretation of Title IX law itself. There are, in fact, and I know you're aware of a federal court decision in Florida that it has one interpretation of how that applies to transgender students. But there are two other circuit courts that have ruled to the contrary of the Florida court. Our Second Circuit has not ruled on the topic yet. So we don't know what would happen under Title IX. But as we talked about earlier, it really doesn't matter. We're not going to be litigating a Title IX claim. If a child is deprived of their right to use a bathroom consistent with their gender identity, if they have a good lawyer, that lawyer will find a favorable forum in an administrative charge before the State Division of Human Rights, heard by administrative law judge of the State Division of Human Rights, interpreting the guidance passed by the State Division of Human Rights. We will lose. It's that simple. And if we lose, and the Commissioner of Education were to find out about it, the Commissioner of Education under 306 of the Education Law could remove our state aid. So to take a roll of the dice like that, I would submit to you is not worth it to your taxpayers. Because if there is a big judgment against your taxpayers, it's going to have to be paid, against this district, gets paid by the taxpayers. So I understand what you're saying, and I understand where the confusion comes from. And I do understand what that court held. And I do understand that there's an argument that the 11th Circuit's reasoning is well done. I do understand that. I do understand that there's a contrary view that the 7th Circuit and the 4th Circuit are really the right reasoning. But what I'm going to say to you is, I can understand where your argument comes from, I really do. But we're not going to be litigating in that forum. Our forum is going to be chosen by the lawyer, bringing the claim on behalf of the student, and they're going to the State Division. And that's where we're going to lose.
So just so we're clear, because I asked a very specific
Mr.
question.
Cooney, just please direct the questions towards me. Thank you.
Yes, so just so we're very clear, and I've only got 3 minutes. I can't have, it's not like we're in court, right?
No.
Right,
So
it's not a back and forth.
it can't be that. So but I just want to, if I could, get this point of clarification. The only authority that you're relying on for your position is that guidance issued by the State Division of Human Rights. Do I have that right?
And by the New York State Education Department. And what I'm saying to you is...
So there's two guidances.
There's two guidances.
Right.
And we're going to be litigating in the forum where that guidance was issued. So that will be the law that is applied. Then if you want to talk about other legal authority, we have the 4th Circuit and the 7th Circuit.
Yeah, okay. And you could also take an appeal if you got an adverse decision, right?
And we'd lose because they would give deference to the interpretation by the State Division of its own law.
Okay, well, I can't continue to debate it. I don't have the time, but,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Please know that as the board, we are deferring to council in terms of the issues that come to us, and we are doing our best to uphold the oath that we have taken and make financial decisions on behalf of the district. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
And I appreciate
Mr.
where you're coming from.
Thank
So I understand that.
Roxanne Rizzi, 55 Kennedy Avenue. At a prior meeting, we were told that there are single occupancy bathrooms. I would like to know exactly how many of them there are in the high school and where they're located, because several children have come to me and said they don't even know where they are. They have no idea where they are. And I heard something earlier, and I'm just going to say this. We said this in a private conversation. I'm sure it's okay to share. What I'd like to say is, you once said that children are comfortable coming to adults in the school. I'm going to say that's not true. That's not always true. I beg to differ with you. There are many children who do not feel comfortable. Those of you who have been here for years know about the child who went home when there was a questionable slide put up, and their parent was a law enforcement person, a person in law enforcement, and it was a negative. You were not here, but it had happened. It was negative towards law enforcement, and that was a one-off. And then we had this conversation. I'm trying to jog your memory. And then there's been other things that happen, like Women's History Month. We talked about that and how girls left feeling very uncomfortable when an MMA fighter was put up on the screen as someone who should be celebrated for fracturing a biological male, fighting as a female, identified as a female, and fractured two biological women fighters' skulls. So I beg to differ. There are many children in this school district who do not feel comfortable going to adults in the building and feel more comfortable going to their parents. So I would just like you to answer those questions for me. If you could tell me where they are in the high school, how many there are, and in the middle school as well.
Sure, I have no problem getting you that information. I can send you an email, no problem.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gavin.
Jeff Greenfield, citizen taxpayer, Yuba Court. Happy New Year, Madam President, the
you
school
too.
board,
Thank you.
administration. New year, old problem. will continue, I'm sure. Mr. Murphy, I'll give you the ultimate compliment that a Jew can give somebody. You're a mensch. Good luck in your retirement. Welcome to our new Assistant Superintendent to Business Affairs. I look forward to your first budget presentation. It will be my 56th budget presentation here at Rockville Center. But I'm sure from what the superintendent told me of your background that you're up for that challenge. On budget item, I was concerned when I heard how much money are we spending on these bathroom monitors? And was that all budgeted before this issue came about?
Mr. Gavin?
In terms of bathroom monitors, what we usually do is assign teachers when they have an off period to a duty. If it's not a teacher, it could be a teacher aide or a teacher assistant. So, for example, if a teacher has, teachers usually on the secondary level at the high school would teach 5 periods. They'd have a prep, they'd have a lunch, and then have a duty. And one of the duty periods would be, could be, not for everyone, but could be hallway duty.
So it's,
John?
We started hall duty in the high school in 2008, where it was a duty period assigned to teachers. So it's
hall duty is now bathroom duty in addition to hall
the
duty.
hall duty is situated.
So there's no
outside.
additional payroll?
No, sir.
No.
No.
So
No.
we situate the hall duty in front of the bathrooms.
Okay. I accept that. Next question through you, Madam President.
Thank you.
For the counselor here, and your nice presentation. You got me a little scared as a taxpayer. I just want to know if we, in the event of us getting served, do we have insurance to indemnify us with respect to this or any alleged claims that might come before the Human Rights Commission?
So you typically have insurance, but your insurance may disclaim coverage if they find it was intentional, which it would be.
As a almost 50-year insurance professional, I understand that insurance carriers love to disclaim
They
to
do.
start with, and
They
then
do.
we have to litigate to get them to
Yes, they do.
accept coverage.
Thank
But
you.
we have coverage?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That makes me feel better. Outside in the parking lot, I forgot to tell you last time, I greatly appreciate the new shed out there. It's very attractive. It hides the unattractive container and the even more unattractive garbage area. I don't know what you have in that shed, but it's very nice shield. I like to see our property very nice. But I have one suggestion that isn't so nice that could be easily remedied. The garbage dumpster that sits outside the cafeteria back door should be moved to the garbage area, because it's not good to have garbage that close to the food anyhow. People will then have to walk, I'm sorry, to dump the garbage, but it's better off where it is.
We'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good rest of the night.
You too. Thank you.
Sarah Cooney, 91 Hempstead Avenue. I arrived late to this. I did check the agenda today. There was no warning that there was going to be a presentation about this, and I do think that's problematic. There's a lot of us who are very concerned about this issue, and we missed it. Anyway, I normally come with a script. I didn't come with a script tonight because I just wanted the council to answer some legal questions. I missed the presentation, so I'm sorry if I'm going to ask him to repeat or ask the president to ask him to repeat some things. My understanding is federal law prevails over conflicting state law. And you can talk all you want about this administrative law judge. And my understanding is those administrative law judges are answerable to state courts and federal courts. They can't just do what they want. Federal law counts. And the federal law is not on your side. When these trans activists who write these guidances, when they think it's on their side, they say so. Page 9. Recent landmark court decisions have made clear that sex, as used in Title IX, includes gender identity. That's false. The case law they refer to, Bostock, Supreme Court, that was Title VII, not Title IX. Why are they quoting it if it's not on their side? Page 22. They're citing the guidance as law, and they cite cases. They omit the 11th Circuit case because it's not in their favor. When the federal law doesn't go in their favor, they lie about it. They omit it from guidance to mislead to schools. Lying is something they don't seem to care about. Page 1617 of this guidance says schools should lie to parents about their kids' identity. Literally, everyone should read this guidance because it's crazy. Page 16 and 17, it gives you an example of how to lie to parents. Is your council saying, and is this board saying, that is the law? Because I am sick of being in this Orwellian, crazy town where it's deemed normal to say girls can go into boys' bathrooms and vice versa. We all know that's ridiculous. And you're sitting here saying it's the law. It is not the law. And it's a lack of courage. It's a lack of courage to not stand up and say that. This is not about being unkind to kids. They have an alternative. The alternative is the gender-neutral single-stall bathroom. That is a reasonable accommodation. What you're doing is depriving everybody else of their civil rights. Now, I know for a fact, it's probably true. You will get sued. You will get sued. But you know what? Get sued. Stand up for everybody. This is ridiculous.
Just to address one item there. The board asked Mr. Gavin to address the issues in his superintendent's report, which is common practice. In addition to that, we're not hiding anything. Quite the contrary. We wanted to come out and address the issues that came before the board, and we asked council to prepare slides that would be shared on our website in public for people that potentially missed the meeting and wanted to refer back to them later. So I just want to make sure that we were trying to be proactive and quite clear and address the concerns that came before us. We are bound within certain rules and regulations based on New York State Education Department, as Mr. Miller went through, and we asked him to make that clear in terms of our role as board members in a school district, in terms of some of you may or may not agree with that, but that's why we asked him to be here tonight to present.
Hello, I'm Allison Michaud, a graduate of Covert. My husband's a graduate of Watson, which seems very popular today. And both of us are graduates of Southside. I actually had Mr. Murphy for Theory of Knowledge, so congratulations on your retirement. It makes me feel quite old that you're retiring. And I would also like to say I'm really thrilled with the new course options that are coming up for students. I work in a university, and it just so closely mirrors what I'm seeing from my freshmen of what they want or what they haven't had an opportunity to take and coming into college kind of unprepared for it, not just from Southside, from across the country. So that's really wonderful. I really didn't want to speak today, but I felt like I had to because of things that have been said at prior meetings that seemed really important. I am the mother of 2 young girls who go to Covert, who I love dearly, and of course I want to be safe at all times. But it's upsetting to me that never have I seen in Rockville Center, when my husband and I came back to raise our children, seen so much hate directed at so few students. So few. As was noted, there's less than 1% of the population is trans. So we are talking about a very tiny, very marginalized group of students, of kids, of people, of members of this community. And I wrote some notes while we were sitting because I was getting a little upset. Trans students, kids, are at the highest risk of suicide, of mental health problems, and they are at far higher risk of assault and being injured by other people. Trans students do not commit crimes. Crimes are most often committed against them. So the idea that they are committing crimes in bathrooms is just not factually correct, and I find it cruel to continue to argue that this is a huge problem in our district or in the country. So with that being said, I think the district should continue to follow state law, whether it's for financial or moral reasons. I don't really care which, I just want it to be enforced. I think parents should continue to have conversations with their kids about what they find appropriate for their families, decide what bathroom their children should use, because the gender-neutral single-use bathrooms are available to anyone at any time. So if trans students are already using it because that's what they're most comfortable in, then that's okay. If a student is not trans and they do not want to be in a bathroom with other people, they can utilize that bathroom whenever they need to. So we should continue to use the gender-neutral bathrooms, continue to have conversations with your kids, and we should all try to be a little bit more empathetic to those most in need in our community. I don't think I'm going to change a lot of minds here today, but I do want members of our community to know that they are supported and loved. And I guess that is it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot one thing. On a different subject, on a positive thought for New Year. Thank you for collaboration as a senior trustee of Malloy University. I'm very pleased that this district is doing a program with our excellent trading room and business program at Malloy University. We're known mainly for nursing, and I hope that we would do more programs with this local jewel called Malloy University. Thank you.
Stay tuned, Jeff. We have more coming.
Thank you.
Good.
Isaac Quo, 64 Hempstead Avenue. I'm excited about the new programs as well. In particular, the Malloy program, the financial, the investment class. Mr. Gavin's right. A single Bloomberg terminal costs $30,000, not just one time, but per year. So it's to have access to 12 of them is pretty cool. We are just hiring. We just hired one person at my firm, a financial firm. We got 800 plus resumes for that one position. So it's competitive out there, and so it's great that our students are having the opportunity to get the training that they need. Also very excited about the IB dance program. I would have been very interested in that if I was in school. If I can make a recommendation for a particular move, the Running Man is quite good. If you don't know it, I'm happy to show it to you after the meeting. It's my best, actually. Mr. Mueller, thanks for the presentation. I know that, and the other comments that were made. And look, I know people are on different sides of this issue, but to me, this is not an ideological issue. It's an issue about safety, and it's not even an issue that I'm concerned necessarily that a trans student. My concern, as Mr. Gavin, you and I discussed, is look, I was a teenage boy. I know what teenage boys get into, and the risk that a teenage boy would say, you know what, I'm just to screw around, would want to walk into the ladies' bathroom. That's my principal concern. And I've got 4 girls coming through the high school eventually, hopefully, and that I would very much like to participate in the financial engineering class and the dance class to learn the Running Man, but I need to know that they're safe. First and foremost, it is not an ideological. It's not first and foremost an ideological issue to me. And so, Mr. Mueller, thank you for the presentation. I'm not a lawyer. I'm well beyond my depth when we get to these sorts of issues. Like I do with medical stuff, though, I would love a second opinion. But beyond that, it seems to me that this is really a state thing. If it's true that it's the state law, and so my plan is to file a civil rights complaint on behalf of my girls. for a Title IX violation for their right to a single-sex space. And I'm going to put a link to that in the video here, and I would encourage others who feel the same to do that as well. Thank you.
Shannon Lutz, 60 William Street. You talked a lot about policies at the high school, and I know that that's because most of this bathroom stuff is really at the high school level. However, no mention was made of policies at the elementary level because there are none. Maybe you didn't think you needed any. You also said tonight that it's your job to keep students safe, so I guess then that my 5-year-old just fell through the cracks. Unfortunately, again, to remind you, you failed my daughter. Not to rehash everything, you know what happened and who I blame. In summary, you failed to keep my kindergarten baby safe in a gender-neutral bathroom setting, resulting in both mental and physical trauma for her. She thankfully loves her new school that we put her in when we pulled her out, and for that, I could not be more grateful. However, I want you to know she is still nowhere near 100%, neither mentally or physically. Then there's my son. I worry for his safety. I think about Roxanne Rizzi at the November meeting saying that as the mother of a son, when I spoke mainly as the mother of 2 daughters, and I swear to you I could have finished her sentence. I knew exactly what she was going to say. What if my son was in a bathroom and a girl accused him? Not to quote her directly, because I don't remember your exact words, but I swear I could have finished the sentence once it began. A young man's life could be destroyed because of false allegations, just like the lacrosse players at Duke, where their accuser ultimately came out and said she lied, just 18 years too late after all those boys' lives were destroyed. As a mother of a boy who remains in place at the public elementary school we pulled our daughter from, purely on the basis he loves his teacher and his friends, as a side note to my husband's disdain that he remains, all of this is unsettling to say the least. As my son remains in place, I want to remind you that these bathroom happenings, no matter what level, are dangerous. I feel as if I'm beating a dead horse saying it again, but here I am. As an example, what happened to my kindergarten daughter in a gender-neutral single-stall bathroom when she was sent to for the proximity to her music room, alone and without supervision and without being shown how to lock the door on this specific type of solid door, one she was unfamiliar with because not the norm. She should have never been sent to said bathroom, let alone unsupervised. Parents do not know this is happening. Had I known, I would have requested my child always use the girls' room, specifically in the elementary school. I would have never, ever given permission for her to be in a bathroom at any time where a big boy could possibly walk in and see her privates while standing to wipe because, well, apparently you all think it's safe for girls and boys to use the same bathroom. You allowing boys and girls to use the same bathrooms, whether multi-stalled, single-stalled, is a safety issue. Parents stand here tonight and ask that students use single-stall bathrooms when matters like this arise. I agree with this for students who need this, but even this I see a dangerous situation with. Whether an unintentional accident or an intentional incident, allowing girls and boys to use the same bathrooms is a safety issue. When my daughter sees a bathroom now marked family or with a picture of both a male and female on it, she immediately asks me to come in with her. I can see the fear even when she doesn't express it, which sometimes she does. She thinks a boy or a man is going to come in and see her. So for that, I implore you to please put safety measures in place for all bathrooms at all levels. You only talk about the high school. Before sending, of any bathrooms that you're sending students to, Mr. Murphy, at our meeting my husband and I had with you after what happened to our daughter, you offered that there is a sign-in policy for bathroom use at the high school. And Mr. Gavin, you said more on this tonight. I'm told the same policy exists at the middle school. However, what safety measures are being implemented at the elementary level at the unfortunate expense of my daughter? Any reactive measures? I hope so, because there were 0 proactive ones. Thank you. Do the existing safety procedures include single-stall bathrooms also? How about the unwilling, I can't imagine the trouble teenagers with raging hormones can willingly get into in a single-stall bathroom with no one to hear. How about unwilling trouble of any student at any age? It is the direct lack of supervision and safety, whether elementary, middle, or high school, that I'm concerned with. Exhibit A, my kid. Based on this evening, elementary should certainly be the next focus. And as far as, Mrs. Barry, question for council.
It seems clear that the council is trying to scare us with an exorbitant lawsuit brought by a trans person. So my question is, are you all worried about a $30 million lawsuit brought by a parent whose child is assaulted?
Thank you
Could
for
have
your
been my kid.
comments.
Hi, Karen Johnson, 301 Raymond Street. I'm speaking on behalf of RBC Pride. We formed 4 years ago to provide visible support for the LGBTQ community in our village. I'm also speaking as the parent of a transgender woman who attended RBC schools. We're responding to recent statements affecting transgender, non-binary, and intersex children made during the last Board of Education meeting's public comment period. Many of the commenters who spoke against New York State law allowing transgender students to use the restroom and locker room that aligns with their gender identity are simply against anything having to do with the transgender community. We know this because several of the very same people were here in July to say they didn't even want any discussion about gender identity in our schools, not even in the high school. Many of these community members come to every board meeting using offensive, unscientific, outdated, and religious claims, such as being transgender is an ideology or that it is a mental illness. The latest topic of interest to the commenters is bathrooms and locker rooms. To be clear, assaults occur not because a transgender child is permitted to use a particular restroom, but because assaulters will find any quiet, unmonitored space to commit an assault, and victims include transgender people as well. A fairer solution might be to better monitor bathrooms, which I'm really glad to hear you're doing, locker rooms and other quiet, empty rooms and spaces, or redesign them, rather than malign and attack the very few transgender and non-binary and intersex kids in our schools. RBC Pride would like to address those students here. Be true to yourself. The beauty of humanity is in its variation, and we see you as a wonderful part of that. You are not responsible for the concerns commenters have brought to the meetings here. You belong in our schools, you belong in our community, you are respected and valued by our organization and all of its members, and we will continue to advocate for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't prepared to say anything today, but listening to laws
Sorry,
and
can you
listening.
just state your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank
Thomas
you, sir.
Hodge, 448 Raymond Street,
Thank you.
Rockville Center, New York. You're welcome. I have to tell you, in 1963, we started to teach sex education, and we had the same difficulties that we're having now with people who just don't understand. And I don't think there's anybody in this room whose child does not get sex education. It did not turn anybody into a whore, did not turn any boy into a rapist. In fact, it gave them security because they knew who they were. And they accepted everybody. One of the very best curriculums was written by a company called Seekus. St. Agnes used that. Unfortunately, someone found out a person who was a pedophile who was part of writing that program. And the program was canceled in all the schools for one person. One of the best curriculums. I was a principal and a teacher. One of the best curriculums you could ever see. It was very sensitive. And what happened over a period of time, people began to realize they made a mistake. I can understand why people have their emotions, but they have to listen to the truth. And the truth is, a transgendered child has the brain of the person that he or she thinks they are, and they know they are. It's a scientific fact. The other scientific fact is if a transgendered girl feels that she's a boy, she has the brain of a boy, which is totally different than the brain of a girl. Get the facts, learn. The one thing that I thought of was we all said the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag today. The final words are, anybody want to say them? Respect. Excuse me, I want to look something up. I know what it is. For all, not for my daughters and grandchildren, and not for yours, for all, for everyone. I looked up what the word means because some of us might not understand it. The final word is justice for all. You might not know what justice is. Justice is a common concern for peace and general respect for all people.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Next, thank you.
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you. We're good.
I would like to address the group.
Please,
Can
thank you.
please stop?
State your name and address, thank you. All right.
Please.
If we're going to continue public comment, we all have to let each other speak and listen to each other, please. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Beth Amione. I live right across the street on 4 Oxford Place. Dr. Murphy, I think that you were Henry's principal at the time, correct?
Yep.
And I will never forget, you were amazing. And I still think about that day. This is a very stand-up man for the rights of all children and the safety of all children. And I really mean that, Dr. Murphy. When I speak to Henry, we talk, we reminisce, so thank you for that. My son, my child, at 17, told me that he was bisexual. Okay? He's bisexual. Okay, you're bisexual. And then now he's 25, and he is leaning more towards transitioning. He is transitioning. And I love my son. I love my child, okay? It's a struggle for parents. It's a struggle for the child themselves to have lived not really knowing what their full self was about. We're talking about, my opinion, I don't really know all what to do. For me, as a woman, I would much rather be anybody transgender be in my bathroom with me as a woman. They are safer there, okay? I don't trust boys in the bathroom. I don't trust your heterosexual boys that you're so afraid that these transgender children are going to attack. That's not going to happen. I think a mindset of a family who is encouraging this kind of contempt prior to investigation. You don't even know the person, and you're immediately accusing them of being deviant and horrible and this, that, and the other thing. That's a shame. That's a real shame to do that to anybody. And I'm more concerned, I want every child to be safe in the bathroom. And I don't know how to deal with this. I was very delighted to hear about how you're handling the bathrooms. I think that sounds safer to me than JFK. Do you let your 15-year-old go to JFK bathroom by themselves, or do you accompany them? Okay, I've had my say because I'm getting passionate. But I think we really need to be a community and think about everybody's good justice, okay? And not accuse people of kowtowing to the law.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items L2 through N10?
So moved.
Second? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Our next meeting will be a public work session, and that is January 23rd in this room.